it's a good time to be in golf. And I think, before we get to Jeff and get going around, I just think, can we just start with that? Is it good? Are tee sheets full? Are memberships full? Are resources and renovations underway? Are labor, when they're available, you can have a good staff? Am I seeing any heads nodding? Is it good up here? Right? Rounds of Golf is off the charts, the biggest numbers we've ever had in the States. So I think it's always good to start out on a positive note. Anytime we get together, it's a good time to be in golf, and it's even a better time to be here with you, Jeff.
Oh, no, appreciate it.
So let's do for those that aren't familiar with this place, can we do some nuts and bolts?
Nuts and bolts?
Yeah, how long you've been here, how old the place is, how many acres, how many guys, that sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah, so this is, I came here in 2014, so we're just starting on 12th season here. Been a lot of change, a lot of renovation, a lot of updates. So just kind of a
So how many rounds total, you think?
We put between 21 and 22,000 annually. So
on how many acres?
So 135 acres total property.
Yeah.
And
how much are you irrigating and feeding?
Whoa, I would say probably 40 acres irrigated and maintaining.
Yeah, that includes the rough.
That includes the rough, yes. And 3 acres of greens, just under about 2.5 of tees, and then 23.5 of fairways. Yeah. Staff crew size, we're 31, peak season. So it's a neat and tidy team.
So let's start there. This is a good place to chat about stuff before we get walking and talking about other stuff. You started using robots, right? You've got some automated mowing areas out
Correct.
there. You're not laying people off. You're not hiring people.
Not at all.
Okay, so can we start with that first? Automation that said, it's going to take, whose job it's going to take? It's going to take the old guys who cut grass for free golf. Those are the jobs it's going to take. Those guys, we're not going to need those guys. No more free golf for you just to cut rough. I got Bobby out there cutting the rough, right? Bombing around, right? So I think that's what you're seeing too. You're just putting it into detail.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
How many acres are you doing automated
now? We're probably just under 4 acres total. We're expanding this year. So we started with 2 autonomous robots that do 2 green surrounds each, just kind of every other night. And we're expanding to autonomous on slopes. So we have areas that we want to get the surrounds more out of, where there's a slope next to green sites. And so we're expanding to 3 more this year to take care of putting green in 18, obviously because of the proximity of the pro shop, and then the hill in front of us that we're about to walk down, that'll all be autonomous, and then green surrounds at 17 and 14. So our plan is to just kind of add 2, 3, or 4 annually until we get to that soft point of, okay, we've got enough.
It's very interesting because in one way, I think about how many, the cost tends to be related to the productivity. How many acres can the unit cut? And some of that acreage you described, sloped in these tight areas, isn't really maximizing the acreage, but it's area you don't want to be in for another reason.
Correct.
So there's one place where it's sort of, okay, we don't have to do that handwork there. It's another thing where this is work, it's even better done with this device, right?
Correct.
So how many acres will you have after that?
So with the addition of the 3 this year, we're probably going to be closer to 7 acres.
Okay.
7 and a bit.
Right. But still a fraction of the total acreage of the property.
Correct.
Still a fraction. Do you see yourself, planning, I love the idea that we support planning. Even if they don't do it, it's still good for you to have a plan, right? Don't you think? Even though, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, that shouldn't prevent you from planning for the things, I think, that you want to do while golf is good. Hello.
Right.
So
right.
What do you think long term?
Well, I think long term we're just going to target the tee and green surrounds.
Yeah.
Green surrounds is the focus right now. We're going to start looking at tee surrounds starting next year, again related to slopes. And we're looking at the larger rough areas and some of the fairway areas, but there's not a real push to that.
Okay.
I think the next focus, in all honesty, is the practice area for us.
Yeah. Fully automated?
If we can mow the tee and the tee surrounds and then the body of the range autonomously, then that's a huge a huge relief for us.
I mean, how many labor hours just to mow that thing weekly? Never mind clean the tee.
Well, we have a very small range, so
you do?
the time is not the issue.
Okay.
It's just the PETA factor, right?
Okay.
You know, trying to get things completed before setup and around golf balls and managing all of that.
That's very interesting.
So,
Okay, so I'm actually poking on that because automation is coming, and you need to start figuring out structurally how you're going to accommodate it and take advantage of it, because otherwise you got to shut up about you don't have any labor. You know what I mean? Everybody's whining, can't get help, no one wants to do this work anymore. Hello, Bobby will do it, right? That thing running around will start doing it. And I think when you look on, we're actually looking at this for the entire Cornell Golf Course now. We can basically cut 85% of the acreage with these robots with the cost of a rough fairway mower now. Huh. You ever heard of the company Kodak? You young people may not know the company Kodak. I wonder how these big equipment companies are going to survive when everybody's figured out I don't need to spend $150,000 and sit a guy on that thing or have you sell me something that drives it for itself. That's all those companies are doing. They're just slapping, well, do we got any equipment guys here? Okay, good. Because I like poking the bear on the equipment thing. We don't have enough competition in the equipment area. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Civitas as we wander out there. And I guess we've been standing here long enough. We can walk, and then as we make our way wherever we're going to head out, maybe we'll stop and talk along the way. And I'd like to have a bigger conversation about Civitas stuff for sure.
yeah, let's
Lead
do
the
it.
way, Jeff.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, we can start here. This is a good place to start. Since we were talking about automation, there's some indication that robotic mowers, autonomous mowers, might limit worm castings. The worms think the vibration is are birds, and so they don't come up because they don't want to get eaten. At least this is what our soil entomologist tells us. We're going to start messing around with it. But obviously microdochium patch here as well, right? So conditions, wet, cool, long periods of time. This is a relatively new tea, yes?
4 years old, 5
4
years old, yeah.
What variety?
We just Pencross and Providence.
Okay, so old-fashioned variety.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. But still not too bad. This gets treated.
Yes.
So that's breakthrough from when was the last app for something like that?
This was the first week in November. So our snow mold on tees is Civitas tank mixed with a DMI. It's sometimes just a DMI that's in inventory. Sometimes we bring a little bit in, but we go low rate DMI with Civitas.
It's interesting because I wouldn't consider these varieties to be necessarily snow mold resistant.
Right.
I think they were the best at the time when we had them.
Yeah.
But things have gotten a little bit better. So that's really good protection, I think.
Yeah.
With just a little bit of breakthrough from a single application. Very interesting. So
the Civitas on tees, 120 mil. So we go 120 mil every 2 weeks, tees and fairways with Civitas. What gets added in the tank is dependent on the time of year. And we just go every 2 weeks leading right up to the snow mold. And so we just continued the 120 mil, and I think with 26 mil of propiconazole. That was in that last spray first week in November.
So the 120 mil is the 8-ounce rate? 4
ounces. 4 ounces. So I just go 4 ounces every 2 weeks.
So that's why cost effectively, when you apply, and this is what we say, when you apply it frequently like that, you get the load that you need to get the Civitas effect that persists, right? So I think that's and it's year round.
Yep. So app 1 on tees and fairways will be next week.
Okay. Right on the other side of the coal.
Yeah. So we've got one cut on everything right now, and so that's why, it was not the greatest of cut, but first cut done on tees and fairways last week, and so once we get the second cut this week, then we'll either cut and spray or spray before the third cut, and then we'll just go every 2 weeks.
And on 20-something acres.
Correct.
Are you hanging over into the first cut, or?
Well, we treat the rough also. We go 2 boom passes around every fairway with just straight Civitas, maybe a little bit of urea if needed, and then high traffic areas. So Civitas will get 120 mil every 2 weeks. We'll kind of start that in May before we get into the summer stress of the season in the rough. So we'll do that on offsetting weeks of the tees and fairways.
So will we, as we wander out there, get past the traffic area that you put a little bit more in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I leave this tee and we start walking again, there's a disease now that John Inguigiato at University of Connecticut has found in the early season that we thought was Whitea patch, but it's right now they're calling it winter or yellow fairy ring. It comes up in the spring, and then and it looks like Whitea, and actually things like what I think in the States we call it a firm. It's polyoxin-D. Do you sell that here in Canada? That one in particular provides some activity, but the problem is, at least what John's finding and the guys at Rutgers are saying now, is that patch comes back in the fall and it seems to be persisting over time and getting worse. It comes when it's cold and it goes away when it's warm. It gives you this idea that your fungicides are really working when they're probably not working very well. So I think we gotta, you know, it's not this. It very much looks like a Whitea patch, like a yellow ring, except it's pitting, and they're calling it a fairy ring because under a microscope it's got a clamp connection, which no one here actually cares about at all. But they know that it's related to the fairy ring organism. So something to keep in mind as we move through the year. What are the soils like
Want
here?
a knife?
Well, I actually,
Oh, okay.
believe it or not, I
Thought you
brought
were.
a knife. Believe it or not,
So
I didn't fly, so I got a
there
knife.
you go.
Okay, so old soils, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow. Okay, so I remember this. You don't have to fertilize very much.
No, sir.
Yeah. You know, when you got good soils like this. But what I can tell, I mean, look at the roots are at it already, right? All that warmth that you get during the year, during the springtime, did you guys get 75, 80 degrees here, you know, 20, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 days backs.
Yeah, just a few. So it hasn't been, we've been actually getting these warm, sunny days where, I mean, we're wearing, I think 4 days ago we were wearing SPS 50 outside, and then the next day there was snow on the ground. It's the 20-degree fluctuations in the spring, which is pretty much the signals of climate change for sure. So, you know, obviously the roots are at it, right? This is a good time, right, for the roots. And again, unless you need the nitrogen right now, you know, for keeping up with traffic, because you'll probably get a response. If you put a little bit of ammonium sulfate or calcium nitrate, you probably would get a little response. But I would only tell you to do that if you were thin, right? If you had widespread thinning, which this is not widespread thinning at all, this thing will fill in. And this is what we've said for a long time, even about snow mold control, is that, you know, put something down that makes sense. Then you were shut down. A proper winter, we were saying, a very much proper winter this year. These are winters I remember as a kid, right? Where you didn't, the ground was covered from, I think we started getting snow in the middle of December where we are. I think we got more snow, less ice with that storm that came through, and then it just stayed.
Right.
And I tell you, golf guys, were you guys twitching this winter? Couldn't get out and do anything? We had a lot of guys in the state park system going, this is the first winter I haven't worked in 10 years. When you guys can't work outside and you start twitching, it gets a little nerve-wracking. Yeah. So tell me about this vertiquaking business here. How long does it take? And, you know, it seems like an easy thing to do, not disruptive in any way.
Yeah, so we don't pull cores on the fairways. We just try to manage growth, and so we come in and vertiquake or vertidrain every fall. Excuse me. So vertiquake was last year. We hadn't done it for 3 years. We have a fairway vertidrain that we would do in October, November. And we had some tree roots creep in on some fairways last summer, and the vertiquake prunes those roots. And so
Two birds with one stone.
So yeah, we actually, what we did in November is we did every fairway. We got through the fairways in 4 days, 4.5 days, in and around play. And then what we did is we did, in certain areas, we did a perimeter pass down the rough, got outside of our irrigation lines on the edge of the fairway and rough and just made a straight line down each way, again, just to sever those tree roots. And then we would go and do the vertiquake on traffic areas, ends of cart paths and such.
How deep does that thing go?
So we set it as deep as it'll go, and it'll get down 9-10 inches.
Okay, so that's pretty good. And,
Yes.
and you're pretty stone free?
So the one fairway that we do have stone, you get through the 2 years of harvesting rock and fixing. But once you get through that first 2 years, then it's as good as everything else.
Yeah, I mean, on these fairways, I mean, to me, honestly, you're trying to, when it gets dry, it's tricky irrigating slopes.
Yep.
So you're always going to have dry spots and wet spots. So infiltration matters a lot for you, because the way it rains nowadays, I don't know what the hell you guys are getting, but we got 1.5 inches in 4 hours the other day in upstate New York. You literally couldn't see the road. It was sheeting across the road. When you get that kind of rain in these areas, you get it really wet down there, and this guy was like, wow, did it rain? Right? Now, I think the soils are plenty moist. I don't, you guys haven't been dry in any way, shape, or form. We had a dry fall. Did you guys have a dry fall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I recall properly, October was, and then it got wet into November.
The winter started.
Because we had a lot of projects going on last fall, and it was a good stretch in October.
That you could work.
Yeah.
And then it shut off.
Right.
And you couldn't do anything for a while, right? Okay. Yeah, I think, listen, pulling cores is a pain in the ass. Oh my God, I'm gonna wrap it up soon, and I just wanna make sure everybody hears me say that. Don't do it just because it was done for all these years and you're terrified of not doing it. There's a million friggin' ways to manage the soil on a golf course, especially like you're blessed with a good soil, but if you have a bad soil, the only reason you'd pull a core is if you really wanted to amend it in a meaningful way. Right? If you're really serious about amending it in some ways. Otherwise, you just got to manage what you got. And I think one of the things I like about this thing is it's stupid simple. There's no mess unless you're pulling up rocks. Sorry about that, but unless you're pulling up rocks. You know, we have to think about this a lot because we're working a lot with school districts that don't have any resources to manage high traffic athletic fields on native soils. You want a tough job, go take that job, right? That's a tough job. Yeah. So out here, I think I like the idea of, these soils look like they function, right? As long as there's infiltration, and we'll talk about and see the winter damage that you got, but there's not much you can do about that in the winter.
Right.
You open this up is the best you can do, I think is the best you can do.
I would agree.
Yeah, because now the job's just to get to 100% cover, I think. You just want to give them a playing surface. Very good. So big tee project, how many did you do?
So we did 2 sets of tees. So just part of our long...
Is this adding, moving tees up, or because you got a tee over there?
No, just completely strip and then put back, like regrade and then reestablish. We didn't shift anything, move anything. So part of our plan, we do have a master plan in development. We've been working on it for 4 years. And what the club decided was to look at maintenance capital improvements versus aspirational capital. So this falls into the maintenance side. And so until they make a decision to go forward on the total golf course plan, every fall we just pick away at the maintenance capital items. So new cart paths and tee deck resurfacing, fairway drainage, rough drainage, those are the 2 main maintenance capital items every fall until they pull the trigger on the full plan, and then it all gets swallowed into one project.
Was it like that from the day you got here 12 years ago, or has it evolved to this as the club either got healthier or trusted you more?
So last master plan was completed in 07, 08. When I got here in 14, there were still items left off of that original plan that got removed from that main project for a variety of reasons. And so we just started to pick away at that, and we finished those in 2019. Then of course COVID hit, and then in 21, 22 is when the club kind of reset and said, let's do a strategic review for the entire facility.
My wife will often say, I don't know how you could walk around so many golf courses. Is there really enough to talk about? I was like, you gotta be kidding me. We walked nothing. We've been chatting for an hour or so. So anyway, I picked up on this. no snow mold treatment on turf type tall fescue sod with a little bit of bluegrass, I would suspect, holding it together. Lest you wonder whether turf type tall fescue is susceptible to snow mold. What do you think? See all the dead stuff? Yeah. And I was saying to Jeff, you know, when I moved back to New York in 1996, I was in Wisconsin and we had started to see warmer summers. And turf type tall fescue really wasn't moving very far north, because it really is a grass that does better under warm, dry conditions. It really, especially the early turf type ones did. And then they became more bluegrass-like, and then they became an option for bluegrasses. And as we got more heat in the summers, we started to use them more. And I think, I remember in Wisconsin, we had a winter where we had ice like this winter. The plots were dead. 100% turf type tall fescue, completely dead. It has weaknesses in the winter. We just haven't had a winter like this in a really long time. Now you got to ask yourself, is this a once in a blue moon sort of thing? And certainly the way we see the climate changing, we don't expect a lot of winters like this, but it is a very typical weak La Nina winter. If the Pacific warms in a particular way, as long as the poles still have some snow on them. I mean, the big issue that we're having is the warming of the earth is just changing the gradient from cold to warm, from the cold pole to the warm equator. And that gradient is what drives the jet stream, right? That brings weather troughy or ridgy as it comes through. And as climates keep changing, we're going to keep getting cold conditions, and sometimes we get stuck in patterns. And that's what we got into this particular winter, whether it happens again or not. But it is an indication. I think we're adapting to the warming world, but there are limitations. And you expect to have some inherent resistance in your plant material, right? I don't think tall fescues really have much. We've seen this happen a lot in places. Now, what are you going to do?
It'll grow back.
It'll grow back. It'll grow back. It's so great to come to these glorious places and see stuff that looks like you see on a muni, right? That I see everywhere when I visit the munis that I visit.
Thanks, Frank.
But only very small areas, not the whole place, right?
Just kidding.
Anyway, low, wet areas, right? So must be a lot drains here.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
More than just this fairway, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like water from the first tee, 18, flows across here. So it's a giant area. Like where we're standing was under 2 feet of water. About 6 weeks ago, like during that first melt. Yeah.
So before that, it was 2 feet of ice.
Yeah, there was ice in this, because everything just kind of collects in this area, right? And so we plumb everything to get it to here, and the idea is that we flood this whole area. And the snowpack, we had 40 centimeters of snow in some spots on the property here. So that melt generated a lot of water where the backup that we had designed got across this fairway. And so we understood that was the risk, because we have no outlet headed out that way. We're just kind of trapped by the grade here.
This is exactly what we should be doing on golf courses. So this is a planned flooded area, just that maybe spilled out a little bit more. I was just telling Jeff that I was in Denver a couple weeks ago, and they're in trouble in Colorado. They didn't get any snow for places. The mountains are dry. You were saying fires. I can tell you, golf courses everything looks like this except it's desiccation out there, right? It's all really dry. And now they're under water restrictions. But in the middle of Denver, the city of Denver has some of the great municipal golf in America, I can tell you for sure. If you really like public golf, it's great there. They had a couple of projects where neighborhoods were flooding. They cut the drainage pipe that was going under the golf course, and they purposely flooded the golf course during storms. Because when it rains out there, like it's happening here, you get these dumps, and the whole system's overwhelmed, and that's why people's basements flood. So I gotta tell you, again, while golf is good, we should always keep that in our back pocket. that in a lot of communities, golf courses are in the crappiest, lowest areas of the neighborhoods and can really serve to help stormwater management, right? These large green spaces are just gold in places where everything else is surrounded by pavement. Now, this sod was covered with that ice and water. And so this is the story, right, between bentgrass and annual bluegrass, especially a modern bentgrass.
Pictures are worth 1,000 words,
You
right?
aren't kidding. So you're saying everything that's dead here, which, you know, the odd thing is it isn't all the POA.
Right.
This is the perplexing thing about this damn plant and the winter, right? Even when a lot of POA dies, some of it lives, right? And then, you know, as you start to deal, what are you gonna do? You're gonna returf this, or it'll grow back?
Well, once we get the soil temperatures up, we're just going to poke some holes, throw some seed in, and just let it come back.
And the membership know about that.
That's right.
Because you don't have a place to put the stormwater.
Right. Yep.
That's brilliant. These are some very interesting snow mold patches. They almost look like merit badges. Do you guys have Boys and Girl Scouts up here in Canada? You know those merit badges you used to get with the image on it? They got this little merit badge look to them. So you got some breakthrough.
Correct.
On your snow mold program. Is that, I was saying as we're walking down, and I've been here, I think at least 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times. In the spring too. This is as much damage as I've seen in your time here. It was a tough winter. Do you think fungicides would have done any better here?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
Yeah.
Like the 120 mil Civitas with the 26 mil Banner on tees, all but one tee come through really well. The damage that we got on the one tee was more so ice than anything else. The fairway program, every 2 weeks, 120 mil Civitas, is then for the snow mold is the Clonostachys rosacea? Rosea. So Clonostachys rosea, and we start those apps on fairways in August, and we go monthly, August, September, October, and then the end of October, early November, and that's our snow mold treatment. We don't put the traditional fungicide down on fairways. We started with the Clonostachys 5 years ago, Brad.
Yeah. I mean, I was here last year and the place was immaculate.
So yeah, so the club is fully supportive. I was completely open and honest with them about where I was trying to push things from that perspective. And last year we had breakthrough on a couple of small fairways, and you know, just openly communicated it to the green committee and the board and said, here's the fungicide area that we're removing off the fairways, here's the cost and all that, and then here's what we're doing. And the cost isn't a factor, it was just kind of that environmental initiative. And so this year we did have breakthrough. We knew there was a risk, the club was fully aware of that risk, but I'm not losing sleep over this. I know confidently that we're doing the right thing, and a majority of this is going to grow back once we get some real growth.
Yeah. So speaking of that, because that's why it was good to stop, because you have this that looks like it's maybe more abiotic, snow, ice,
yeah.
And then you've got what's clearly biotic, right? That's
Correct.
clearly, okay, that's the stuff breaking through. But at the same time, you also have other areas where they look pretty low and you don't have any snow mold there. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of things going on. And I guess I always keep coming back to what you're saying. And I ask, when do they expect it? When a Rosedale member shows up, maybe they're coming back from somewhere and they come back all around the same time because they know Jeff's got it dialed in for this day. When is that?
So the Victoria Day weekend for us, the long weekend in May.
In May.
So
the
third
end of
week,
the month?
third weekend in May.
Beautiful.
Is kind of the target where a lot of our golf events start to pick up.
Excellent. And do you have any concern this will grow back by then?
We'll still see some of it, I think, just with the slow start in April here,
yeah.
but a majority of it will be gone.
That's what I mean.
Like this is nothing compared to the next fairway
Okay,
that
let's go then.
we're gonna get to, where it's
right,
a little more significant.
Okay. Well, I want to have a conversation about fungicide use versus Civitas. And let me start with the question, do you guys have to present your chemical application treatments to the public every year?
So provincially, we report our active ingredient the list of ingredients and volumes.
Wasn't there a...
No, the medium's been disposed of.
The meeting's been disposed of.
Correct.
So there used to be the requirement for a public presentation of your chemical use.
Correct.
And then it stopped. When did that stop?
Yeah, four years ago, 5 years ago?
Okay.
6 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah, right before the pandemic, I think.
Okay, so I'm under the assumption that without that, there doesn't appear to be any public pressure to reduce chemical use on golf courses.
No, it's still there.
It's still there?
It's still there.
Okay.
So it might be where, like with the houses around here,
yeah.
I will get 1 or 2 phone calls a season and ask for that report, the annual report.
Okay, all right. Which has a ton of Civitas on it.
No, Civitas isn't, it's not registered like with the active ingredient that's required there. That's why I'm a big user of it, is it helps reduce the active ingredient load on all the other things.
That's okay, and that's what, thanks for walking right into it, Jeff. That's how I got started with this thing. We started working with this product back in the 2006-07 when it was barely getting started, and it was because at Bethpage we were trying to grow a golf course, have a golf course without any synthetic pesticides. And after 7 years of trying across different putting surfaces on the green course, I bumped into Michael Pfeffer and Reini Dragal, and they said, here, try this. And this is back when no one was using pigmented products. We forget, especially young folks. Pigments are relatively new in the last 15 years to this industry. This isn't something we were using. In fact, in the past, if you sprayed pigments like, what, you can't grow grass? You don't know how to grow grass? So things have changed a lot, but it started out with us as what could we use to reduce pesticide use. We made the growing environment better. We fixed the soil. We even stripped some greens and put velvet bentgrass, which was great for a lot of things, but then crapped out in the summer, right? So we tried a lot of different things, and Civitas was the one thing that not only worked, but the guys were willing to use. You know why? Because most guys are like, well, I could pour this jug or that jug. If I'm pouring a jug, you just tell me which jug to pour in there and I'll do it. And we saw just by pouring those jugs in, we were able to reduce our overall chemical use. I mean, our state park golf courses that use Civitas like you do throughout the season, particularly the smaller ones on greens and things, I mean, their fungicide use is like 15% of the national average, right? We benchmark all of our state park golf courses, how much pesticides they use relative to what national pesticide reporting data says. And our state park guys that have beautiful putting surfaces where they're not spraying everything, they're hardly using any chemicals at all. And that's, I think, the way it should be if we're going to try to, model that behavior. But the cornerstone of it was Civitas. So without that motivation or without that interest in trying things differently, it's hard sometimes, I think, for the technology you're using here to get a foothold. Now, again, even if you were open selling rounds of golf, if you were a public golf course selling rounds of golf, you wouldn't discount your rounds because the fairways had this damage on it. The ball's sitting up perfectly fine. You got a perfectly good lie here. In fact, if you go core and make a mess of it, you'll make a crappy lie, right? So in some ways, it's just play it through. And then I think we have to realize our customers will accept, particularly while golf is good, more than I think they will, admit maybe, especially if the price is right in the public realm. In the private realm, as long as they're like, hey, you got it good by Victoria weekend, Jeff, we're good here. And plus we get the benefit of having a low pesticide load on a really high profile property in the middle of a pretty nice area.
Right.
And I think that's what you always got to be mindful, especially a place like this. You can say, oh, well, he's got this, he's got that. Well, I think the other thing you get is a spotlight.
Correct.
Right, with the houses around you.
Right.
And I think, again, as golf gets popular, there's always going to be people that are like, well, this golf thing is a problem. We should start attacking it again. And I think that it's very common for us to see this in the States, and I bet Canada, you guys are going to see the same thing here.
I would agree.
So, where's the trial? Are we heading towards the trial?
Well, I don't have a trial per se.
Okay.
With, like, it's just, we went wall to wall with the clonostachys.
So I thought, okay, so,
Yes,
so
sorry.
what we're looking at here is how many weeks, you said a few weeks ago, look worse than this.
Yes, like when we come out of the snow melt and I came for the walk, I was, you know, reached out to Brad and we connected and I was like, oh yeah, like there's snow mold going. You could still see I'll let Brad describe what he saw when he came too, but it was snow mold like I hadn't seen in years. And you know, we always take the picture where you have that small breakout where the sprayer missed or whatever, but like there was this fairway in particular, like it was just like, oh my gosh, like yeah, we got snow mold. But you know, when we kind of looked at it, we were just monitoring soil temperatures. You can see a lot of it's already growing out, you know, and just the difference of sunshine and some warmth. And that was my presentation to the Green Committee last week, was just, here's the pictures, here's the breakthrough that we had, here's 2 weeks ago, here's today, and here's what we anticipate going forward.
So it's tifula, right? It's a tifula that caused this, as far as you guys are aware?
So we had a combination of the tifula with the microdokium as well.
Okay, so it's pink and gray.
Yes.
But you had enough persistent snow cover to have gray snow mold, right?
Correct.
You know you need, and that's why we're not seeing as much gray snow mold as we used to, right? Because of that. Now, I'm very interested in the microbial load as well. What I know is, at its core, Civitas is nothing but liquid carbon. Matt, it's liquid carbon. Is that an easy way to describe it? It's a jug, 100% of it. There's no water in there.
No water.
There's no water, it's just oil, right? And then, and so it's basically stuff mined out of the earth that's made its way into this jug. And I gotta believe there's some relationship, although I don't know, between you're putting carbon down at a time you're also putting an organism down, that generally organisms feed on carbon, right? That's what they're processing in one way, shape, or form. I was asking the question earlier, have we looked at, I'm pointing at you because you're the microbe guy, have we looked at its persistence through the winter and then how it potentially interacts with these organisms and is doing what it does?
You're talking about the Civitas specifically, how it interacts?
No, I'm wondering about the organism.
Oh, the organism.
Yeah.
As far as persistence goes, I don't have a specific answer, but it's a organism that lived in the soils for a million years.
Yeah.
So every soil you go to is going to have some clonostachys in it.
Okay.
So when you go out and apply it, and it's not high rates, we're like 100 grams per. What's the rates again? 100 grams per 1,000. Right, 100 grams per 1,000 of this, basically of spores that you're going out and applying. So you're upping that load, and then through competitive exclusion, and it actually will feed on the resting structures of the snow mold.
Okay.
It's
okay.
like
so
a predatory.
Those are the two words I was looking for.
Yeah.
So competitive exclusion, which means I'm going to colonize something before you do, but I'm not pathogenic, and I keep you away from it. And the other was.
It's actually it's a predatory fungus. It'll
yeah,
feed
it actually feeds on the sclerotia,
on
right?
the sclerotia of the snow mold.
Yeah, we forget like that the microorganisms are so micro, they can feed on each other, right?
It's biological warfare. You're out there putting down, an organism that will feed. And this specific organism, it does a bunch of other beneficial things as well. It'll help mine micronutrients out of the soils.
Okay, so but as far as the inoculation goes, has there been work looking at how it persists in the soil through the winter time?
No.
Okay, because I look at breakthrough, right? And my thought is, well, it has to be where the conditions were right in this area for so long that it overwhelmed, in my case with Civitas, it's the defense activation that Civitas can do to naturally resist. And the organism's competition, it just favored the one over the other. Because we generally, in a bad year, you don't get this good control with Civitas by itself. Matt, by itself, not for the kind of winter we had. So I'm looking at it and saying, there's a partnership going on here. I don't entirely understand it. I wanted to understand a little bit more about how the organism works. But I also think, the pigments, even at the low rate, seems to persist. You had some pigment persisting. Because I even see some in the areas. You haven't put any Civitas out here yet.
No, not
it
yet.
persists pretty well, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's the other part of it. Now, I think that, the one discussion is, for snow mold. The other is, does it give you other benefits? And you were talking about traffic tolerance. And I think anytime you're, have a stressful area, you're going to see its benefit more. And you're rolling fairways here, aren't you?
Yes.
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 Right?
Yep.
Is anything you're seeing deterring you from rolling?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So we, obviously with the Smith-Kearns model on dollar spot, when we start to get in, like we rolled the fairways before we mowed them last week, and we'll roll them again before the next mow. And then as the Smith-Kearns model goes and we start to see it get up to 10%, then we start rolling on non-mowing days. And then we just kind of maintain that going through. Meanwhile, the Civitas is going out every 2 weeks. The DMI gets added into that spray when we see the Smith-Kearns model get 25% or north. Until it gets to 25% or north, the DMI doesn't go in the tank.
When's usually the first time that application is needed?
So we're finding it started to shift a little bit later. Sometimes the DMI doesn't go in until the end of June.
There you go. There you
right?
go.
And
then
we'll
are
maintain
you using
that
it later into the fall
and
now?
then we'll maintain the DMI into October, that first Civitas app in October, if the model supports it. Once the model drops below 15, the DMI comes out.
So when you are looking at the model and you're deciding, yeah, the model's going up, do you have an operation, Jeff, that's nimble enough you could really go out and spray any day you want?
We could if we needed to, yeah.
Okay. How many of you are restricted by the days you can spray? Yeah, most guys are, yeah, that's what I would think. Okay. So that's the other part of this that I think is worth noting is that we, listen, we've been talking about models for 15 years. Before the Smith-Kearns, we had it on a different model on our website. I love the idea of using it. I love the idea that you can, intentionally go out and roll for dollar spot control. We're actually seeing rolling being pretty good on organic matter control. We're just about ready to submit a grant to the USGA to start looking at rolling as a means of minimizing organic matter production on golf course fairways. Because I think can we talk about the labor differences? How long does it take a person to roll versus how long does it take you to get a cut on?
So one roller, so we don't roll all the fairways either.
When you roll?
So when we roll, the areas that we target the roll, 3.5 to 4 hours.
One guy?
One guy.
Okay. What about mowing?
Well, mowing, we can send out 2 or 3 mowers and they can be done in 2.5 hours with 3 mowers.
Okay, so that's 6 hours. So it's not a big labor difference.
No.
Okay.
No.
How wide's the roller you're using? 15 foot?
18 feet.
Okay,
the progressive roller.
Okay, the big progressive.
I think that's 18.
The red one?
Yes.
Yeah, bit heavy too.
Yes, love
Nice.
it.
Love that.
Love it.
I don't know, we got scared of weight on golf courses many years ago, and this is a good example of that. People, old timers like, oh, you can't roll, you're gonna get compaction. Not really. It turns out you don't really get much. I mean, you're gonna get it in places you drive and turn all the time for damn sure. But if you have a good operator, rolling with heavy equipment, we used to use a lot of heavy equipment on golf courses and now have moved away. And I think this is the other part of automation. The folks at Connecticut have now found you start mowing with an automated mower, you're cutting your nutrient use in half. Those clippings are going back in and you don't need as much nitrogen as you used to need. Now, the other thing is they're light, which if you've got muddy areas, that's good. But if you have grasses that grow a lot and the weight of the mowers and the weight of the carts and the weight of the rollers helps manage organic matter, if you don't scale back your nitrogen, you're going to have trampolines for fairways. You're going to have swishy, soft fairways if we move towards automation and start putting those little Roombas out here, right? Different than maybe that Firefly thing, right? The blue one that they sell.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are all going to be tied together because ultimately, is there anything in these areas that broke through that would lead you to believe they were thatchier, they were weaker? The area, like again, it looks really good over here. I don't see any breakthrough over there. And over here, it broke through. is it really all related to water, or are there other things going on these fairways?
You know, now that you ask that question and I look at this, this is a dry section of the fairway right here, like in the heat of the summer.
Okay.
This whole stretch from just behind you
can
all the
see
way back to the start, this is the area that needs more irrigation in the heat of the summer. This is a very poorly draining fairway. It's wet on that side. So now that you say that, kind of the, let's call it the high and dry,
Yeah.
had more breakthrough.
Yeah, and
So
I
that
think
would be related perhaps to the organism not having adequate moisture, perhaps during those August
Yeah.
and September applications.
and in general, just weaker plants. Weaker
Right.
plants that are constantly struggling during the year that you're having to nurse through. So again, you know, do you target airifying and composting, or is it worth it if you get to put drainage in? Because I think, I look at it as like, you know, why is it good over there? Especially that you just told me it's wet, but the water doesn't sit there. And the water didn't sit here, but it's dry here.
Correct.
So it's likely, especially we've been having dry falls. And you know, you get these things, and not for nothing, we want a drier golf course. Don't you want a drier golf course? So maybe a little bit too dry, but I think worth saying when you're not using, listen, pesticides aren't going anywhere because they're cheap, effective, and convenient. That's the triple win. Everything else is going to have some variability and inconsistencies to it. The question, but I think when you look at an operation like this, I would say, well, maybe we should start thinking about fixing this soil so it behaves a little bit differently. And if I've got a master plan, why don't I come in here and do some regrading?
Well, this fairway is on the list for regrading.
There you go.
Exactly for
Beautiful.
that reason.
And it'd be very interesting to see how quickly this problem, and how are you going to do it?
Do what?
How are you going to regrade it? You're going to move from one place to
So
another? What's the plan?
the plan with the architect is just essentially strip and regrade and just try to direct water into specific areas. Like it's a little bit, you know, high peat, like a high peat soil. And so that's where you get all the sunken. Like you can see where they ran drainage over the last 20 years because everything's sunk, right?
So this used to be flooded by the river.
Not so much, no, but if you go way back.
Yeah, way back.
Now I'm starting to expose the skeletons in the
Very
closet.
great. All right, let's keep wandering.
Yeah.
There's a candidate for the robot, right? But Jeff just said not happy with the cut.
Well, not confident, not comfortable with the fairway height cut yet.
Yeah, I mean
That's all.
That's exactly what we have to, you know, say to each other about how this is going to work. So, is that from using many units or just one unit?
Well, we had 2 units going last year. We're going
But
up
the
to
same
5
brand.
this year. Last year when we were looking at the slopes, I wanted to get the Ventrac mower off slopes. All it took was a couple of springs ago, a couple of people called in sick, and I find myself on the Ventrac, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I asked people to mow this. And so right then and there, it was like autonomous. We got to go that way. So 2 years ago, the autonomous couldn't handle those slopes. And then last year, one brand come in and set up a demo for 3 weeks, and it didn't skip a beat on that very slope.
But it has nothing to do with necessarily the quality of cut,
No.
like you're questioning
Right.
in fairway height of cut.
Right.
Because you haven't done any short grass.
No, I haven't gone there. Like that's where the range tee comes in, and we're starting to look at short grass for autonomous, but that's on the investigative for
Okay,
26.
so you've been focused on taller grass. Thanks
Yeah,
for that
just on rough.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been visiting more courses, especially munis, par threes. They'll have a robot on the par threes, and it mows everything except the putting green.
Yeah.
Right? And it changes height on the fly. It has a mission, right? And it changes height on the fly. I think this is getting pretty standard now with these units. But I do think, you know, again, whenever we gather like this and we get I get a chance to yak with a bunch of folks interested in this, I think it's important to talk about some of these big issues beyond just, you know, what Civitas does. Now, do you spray? Now this gets. What is the treatment of your greens for snow mold?
So you use a traditional 3-way chemistry, 2 products. That's what we do for snow mold.
Okay, so
And there's a combination. Like I don't lock in. Like each year is different. Just try to change it up a little bit.
That's right, but it's the traditional fungicide program
Correct.
on the greens.
Yep.
And the surrounds and the approaches.
So when we do our snow mold application on greens, we go out to what we refer to as the approach heads,
Okay.
which is the first fairway head out. So this would be sprayed to the bottom of the hill. So Civitas would get onto the greens in October. Once we get towards Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Civitas goes on for 2 applications in October leading into the snow mold.
Okay.
So the Civitas handles all the fusarium, microdochium that happens in the fall.
Yeah. It was Marie's old line, green and clean into the winter.
You got it.
That was Marie's line. For those of you who've been around a little bit, Marie, right?
Yeah.
That was her line with Civitas back in the day. Was, don't wait for the last minute. Keep it clean before you go into that period, and it saves you having to put your traditional fungicides out until later.
Right.
Right, and so
Right.
that's the other advantage. The regular use of Civitas just sort of smooths things out. It's it's almost like it takes the edge off of a lot of things. And if you're really keen on trying to reduce, and I'm not just saying, fungicide use, there's ways of looking at water management and nutrient management. It also the Civitas provides the benefit for. So it's interesting to hear that you're sort of the model case for the way we would tell someone to incorporate it into their program, but also for people that don't use it, you're not going to go out there tomorrow and start doing what he does, right? Just put out 4 ounces every 2 weeks. For the variety of reasons it's hard to do. So the question is, where do you start? And I really, no matter where you are, right now is where you get a lot of benefits from the pigment and the oil this early in the season. I don't care what surface you spray it on. I don't care what surface you spray that oil and pigment on at this time of year, it makes the spring go better. You put a little phosphite in there and you get a little boost of more activation. And without applying a single bit of fertilizer, you're gonna see your stand just really get going. And then in the States, we've been using it with, proxy seed head suppression, but are you using it as a new legal? Yes, a new? Yeah, a lot of good words about a new, even for seed head suppression in the springtime. Do you use a new?
No.
No, you don't. Not on these surfaces.
No growth regulators.
No, not a single one.
No.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, none at all.
None.
Excellent. So that really low, because that's a pesticide.
Right.
So you would be well below the national or regional average of pesticide use, even though you're treating fairways through the summertime with that DMI.
Right.
And teas.
So our load, and I'm not the lowest, but we range, I think we've been as low as about 115 kilograms for a season, up to about 235 in the time I've been here. That's kind of our range.
115 to 235, and that is kilograms of active ingredient. And Civitas is not included in that calculation.
That's right.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's where Civitas, on the EIQ.
Yeah.
Right, it's very high on the EIQ scale.
Yeah.
But when it comes to active ingredient load, it's zero.
For you guys here.
Right.
And the EIQ's been redone, so now we've got a 2.0 version of the EIQ that now Civitas is treated more fairly, but it is included in the calculation. So we do, the EIQ has been adapted. Now it's interesting, we're gonna work with Guillaume up at Laval, looking at the pesticide records that they've collected in Quebec and start looking at risk models and EIQ of fungicide programs to determine behavior, right? To see if we can start to figure out what are the triggers. Is it calendar spraying? If you used a model, what could it be? And what we're trying to do from my lab and our research, and I think Civitas helps with this, is we just want to benchmark stuff. Like everybody who irrigates a golf course, if somebody says to you how much water you use, you ought to be able to tell them how many million gallons of water you use, full stop. If somebody says how much fungicides or pesticides do you use, you ought to be able to do exactly what he just did. You ought to be able to, same with nutrients, right? And if we start to benchmark these things, is that a Coast Guard? No. Huh? Air medics, yep. That's not a good sign.
No.
Heading to the road somewhere.
Hospital is right there at the top of the hill.
Oh, okay, so they're landing there. Okay, so, I lost my train of thought. Oh, benchmarking. Listen, the best we can do is be transparent about what we do and be clear about it. And I was thinking about this more recently, especially in Canada, where you guys have been with this environmental thing for a really long time, longer than in many places in the States. Isn't the discussion maturing now where we can say, hey, here's what we use. We're willing to benchmark what we do, and we're willing to say, yeah, we might go as high as 235, but I'm not going to 310, right? I'm pretty sure I'm not going to 310, and I'm going to live with what it's going to be at this amount. And I think that's the conversation we need to have with people who don't like golf, right? But also, we should strive for those things, I think, ourselves. I mean, it's a golf course. You should be accountable for the resources you use, right? For the public good that it does. And I honestly, this is how it's always worked with me with Civitas. We started working on public golf courses, and it really made them better without a significant investment. So were you going to say something, Matt?
I was just going to say, with the PMRA, we just got duly registered as a pesticide of least concern, I believe is the terminology. So they bumped us over into a whole different...
No kidding. Pesticide of least concern. Had you heard that?
No, that's the first I've heard of that. Yeah.
But it's still not accounted for in what you have to report.
Correct.
And I got to tell you something. You manage a golf course with a lot of POA. The last thing you want to do is make a dramatic change in anything.
Right.
POA becomes adapted to what you do to it, more so than bent grass or any other grass that you're growing. You got a lot of POA. I have watched this happen because we studied what happens if all of a sudden one day you don't spray any more pesticides. And guess what? They die every year. A certain amount of plants become dependent on you spraying them. It does in fact work that way. And so whenever you make changes like try to dry an area out, heck, I don't know if you had to do it, but a lot of times guys cut trees around greens, and the POA that remains, yeah, it gets sunburn. It becomes adapted or dependent on the shade conditions. So I'd say, if you ever embark upon, and that's where again Civitas came in. It allowed you to, it gave you this buffer where the plants were always sort of contributing as much as they could, and then you could sort of decide where you wanted to find the reductions or increase the stress level or ask the plant to do a little bit more. And again, if you think about how dependent plants become on you spraying them, they also become better when you let them be better, right? They also can be trained that way too. And I think that's something I think there's a lot of risk aversion. We're a little bit nervous about that risk, but you've been taking it in a measured way, right? And
so
again,
it started with tree removal. Like the first winter that I was here, you know, if you all recall, 2014 was like damage, devastation everywhere through the city. So I came into four greens that were completely dead. They were probably 95% dead. And there was probably about 6 or 7 other greens that had 20, 30, 40% dead on them. Under covers, no covers, like it was a combination of everything. So I had the opportunity to say, well, we got to cut trees down. Trees contributed to this. And so we got into we removed, I think the number was about 90 trees that first winter that I was here. And then everything went into shock the next season. And it was that adaptation where they'd been in the dark for 20 plus years. And all of a sudden now we kicked the door open and sun's beating on them. And that's where Civitas helped with the harmonizer. Because of my experience from my previous course, just bang, put the Civitas down right away, and it helped.
Yeah, because
transition.
it's going to screen out the harmful rays that are now making it through and causing that light damage.
Right.
I hadn't actually thought about that, but you know, we've been cutting trees down for a while, but it is a way to smooth the transition. Now, those greens that you lost, I'm assuming this wasn't one of them.
No, it wasn't. No.
So what's going on back here? Recovery?
Yes. So
can we look?
Sure. So
How long the cover's been on?
when we had the melt, this section right here, you can see some evidence of it here. We had some crown hydration injury where everything kind of flowed here, sat and froze. And so what's underneath these covers is where the collar was decimated. Yeah, we can just pull. Just go ahead and pull. It's got to come off anyways. So we just decided to poke holes, throw seed, and then put these covers down just to try to generate something.
Yeah.
And it's good for pictures.
100%. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, it's something you'll do. It's not really in play, right?
No.
For even if people are playing, it's not really in play.
No.
The ball's going to roll off of these areas anyway. And, you know, I've been watching people recover from winter injury for a long time. And, you know, if you want to think sometimes about, you know, sort of stuck in a bad pattern, sometimes what we have to do, either for ourselves or to show the membership, I got to do something. They have to see me doing something. I can't just sit here and blah, 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 especially in an area like this. And so this didn't take very long.
No.
And it provides like we're doing something to get the things recovered in the ways that we have the labor to do it. So I always think, number one, it's the agronomically sound thing to do, but we don't often do it. And I think the reason to do it sometimes is to make sure the people we work for recognize, hey, this is what we can be doing. We don't have to do it everywhere, but I think you're right about this. This is a very this is a beautiful hole.
It is.
Yeah, this is a really nice joint.
Yep.
So, I mean, honestly, it's going to take a while. I mean, with these cold temperatures, the best part about covers is they hold the heat in at night. Anytime you get some sun during the day that builds underneath there, the cover provides a little bit of insulation. But you threw some seed too?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is not going anywhere yet.
No.
And actually just a little bit on the green, not any more.
Well, you can see where Phil's standing there and right behind him there. Like when the cover come off, everything looked okay, and then 2 days later it was like, what happened? And then you could just see where things kind of froze and such. So it was just
yeah, but you'll take this all day long.
yeah.
This is nothing.
Nothing.
That's what I mean. This is nothing compared to you. When you've seen them dead, it steals you to what the hell it could be.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. This is great. You want to keep walking, or what should we do? Let's wander. Okay. All right. Couple of things. Civitas has gotten a bad rap over the years because it stains the soil green. Does that worry you?
No.
Okay. It doesn't worry you?
No.
Okay, good. It shouldn't worry you. Because if you spray enough iron, you'll also start to stain sand particles. And there's no evidence that we've seen from 20 years of using this thing that having pigment in the profile is altering the performance. Matt, the green layer, I'm talking about the green layer. No concern, we've studied it. It's not, over the years, not something anybody worries about.
I mean, it's a green stain, right? So if you drop it on your concrete, if you've ever used it, you know you're going to see that there for 3 years, right? So it takes a long time to break down.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the soil. It doesn't really react with anything, that inability to break down. It doesn't mean it's reacting. But kind of what I use as my analogy is if you go to sports fields and you look at the white boundary lines that they're painting, they're growing grass in paint.
Oh yeah, and 6 inches of paint.
You know, is the dye, is it having an impact on the growth of the roots? I don't believe so, based on, because paint has clay and a bunch of other binders in it as well, and it still grows in that. Certainly the pigment we use doesn't, right? It's just really a stain. But it will show up, like if you drive it down, it'll show up in sand layers, lighter layers. You may see it, but like Andy at Bethpage, he's been using it for years. You don't see anything in the soil.
No.
So I think usually if I do
Depends
see
on
it,
the kind of sand you got too.
well, it depends on your sand, and I also think it depends on, did it rain after I applied or something where I'm driving the pigment down? Maybe something happened like that,
Yeah,
but you know, it all depends. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. The second part is I can see the aerification holes. I can see the sand. Dry jet?
No, just
No.
drill and fill.
Drill and fill. Okay, but okay. So here's the deal, and I could probe down. How deep is the sand before I hit the original green? 8 inches, 10 inches?
Yeah, in that 6 to 8
Down.
inches range. Yep.
Yeah. So you're still managing that interface, right? I think that's important to understand. If you got push-up greens, they'll actually get firmer than sand-based greens. No. I mean, do you have new greens out here too, or all of them are push-up?
Newer greens, but they behave like the soil.
They behave like the soil ones. So the thing is, ultimately, it's managing this mat layer at the top. I think we've all had to accept that firmer greens come from this dense layer at the surface, and the more uniform you can get it to behave and the more rapidly you can get water out of it, the firmer and more consistent your greens will be. I mean, again, in the last 15, 20 years, I would say greens have gotten inordinately firmer than they used to be. When the bent grasses came out, we were using a lot more nitrogen. We weren't using as much sand. We were growing a lot more grass than we needed to grow, right? And I think now that we really got a handle on how to grow the grass in the right way, we're able to produce this mat and manage it effectively. So when the greens are firm, they take a roll better. They respond better to the mower, right? They handle foot traffic better. Everything's better when your putting surfaces are firm, right? So it begins with getting that firm layer, which you got beautiful here. And then you can see the rooting going down, the holes that get the water moving through. These are, of course, the critical aspects of making sure your root zone functions well, is getting it firm. All right, Tim, Matt, how we doing? Did we lose Tim?
So Tim had to leave. I think it was time for his massage. You know, he's usually a type of massage like well. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank Dr. Rossi for pushing it out despite being on the injured reserve list today. He seemed to have handled it quite well without a golf cart. Jeff, thanks so much for hosting us. I know it's always a big deal having a lot of people here. And Doctor, looks great. You did a great job. We love having you as a colleague. Matt, thank you from our side on behalf of IntelliGrow. If you've got any questions, talk to your sales rep. I think Dr. Ross might be around for a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat. Plus you can email me. I'm pretty easy to find.
IPM sheets? I think everybody's signed, but yeah, those IPM sheets, if you miss signing up, are still at the front there or the side. And again, got any questions, reach out. Thank you all for coming, and have a great season. It's going to warm up soon.
Yeah.